All right, everybody. I am back after what? A week? 5 days, 6 days, and that's still a week. So sorry I wasn't uploading for that amount of time without a notice or anything. Something abrupt happened in my life, so I had to actually take care of it right quick and deal with it. And the after effects. Now, I saw some people wanted a 3D background tutorial. So here we are. Now I made a small example, which is this, of the actual tutorial itself. You know, this is your example. I'm gonna upload this example separately. So it's gonna be this tutorial and then the example video directly after for those who don't like hearing lengthy videos but like seeing the actual example. Now, this uses I want to say I want to call them stale framing. You know, there are slow frames, which are startup frames and end frames. There's fast frames, which is like the very core or the rise in your action. And then there is stale framing, I'll say. Now, stale framing is, well, kind of just frames that consistently go at a certain speed. That's all I can say. So it's like no matter what, the frame will consistently go at the same pace. The stick node will go at the same pace, no matter what. Even if the background is moving at 100 miles per hour, the stick frame will always go 2 miles per hour in every frame. That is a still frame. And in 3D backgrounds, that is kind of important. Why? Because still framing is done a little bit differently than it is done 2D. For 3D, it's kind of the same concept, but you use still frames at the beginning by making the object larger as time goes by. Now, this blue line, will simulate the movement. This is the path that the object will go through. This red little ball here will simulate the actual object moving. And I put this here just because I just want to see if I can make something else with it. Now, these purple things will simulate the distance, all right? The small one being in the back, this one being in the front, and of course, you have the actual background itself, the hallway. Technically, I don't need this, but I thought it would be better to give you guys a visual representation of what would happen or where it would be. So, we'll play it now. We'll play it now. Very simple, right? Goes forward, that's it. That's all there is to it. It's a very short clip, but it shows you 3D effect. This is exactly the same way I animated the hallway scene for Part of Something Part 10 when the guy got a sword through the head. This is how I simulated. This is exactly how I did it. The only difference is one, there wasn't no blue flying square. There was a black flying square, and there was no like circular object. It was the shape of a sword. That was it. Now, I used a circle because it's very simple. You don't have to think too much about shape. But the square is also a test in itself, even though I said it was for just no reason. It was for the reason of A, let's see what happens if I gave an object with sharp corners or a more complex shape than a circle. Because I can turn a circle sideways and it'll still look like a circle. Or a sphere, sorry. I can turn a sphere sideways and it'll look like a circle still. I can turn it upwards and it'll still look like a circle, no matter what. So I chose a flat flying square disc. So the best way I could say this is for 3D, strictly for 3D, you want the object in the background to be really small, really, really small. You don't want it in the front. You don't want it big because it will basically be in the front. It'll be in the front. You want it small because when you look at things from a certain distance, any view, if it's far away, it's small. When it's closer, it gets bigger. That's how it works. So these two little purple boxes will simulate that for you. Now, the object itself as it moves. If I had to break down the movement down, it's still stale framing, but the object gets larger. Now, sometimes it doesn't always go at the same, speed, but for the most part, it travels the same speed every single time. Literally, the ball is kind of overlapping with the next thing. It consistently does that throughout until you get here. Now, the beginning will stay, it'll be small, and you will slowly make it get bigger. You will slowly make it get bigger. It starts small, and you slowly make it get bigger. All right? And move it to the side. You start here, you move it to the side, but just make it get bigger. That will simulate it getting bigger. That will simulate it coming closer to the actual person watching, all right, or to the object you want it to hit. Once you start getting towards the actual person, the object will slowly speed up, which is where the rise of action goes. So you go from still frames to regular movement frames, if you will. Not slow frames, not slow frames yet. Just a little faster in movement. That's it. Now, for this specific piece, the part where you actually want it to travel distance, the more you go make it go to the side, the more you have to make it bigger, which is the whole point of me making this blue square, to simulate that easily so you guys can see it visually. As you can see, this object is literally just going to the side. That's it. It's just going sidewards, but it's getting bigger. And as an object comes closer to you, when it's far away and it's moving towards you, it looks very slow. When it comes closer to you, it gradually gets faster, which is why you want to go from stale frames, or the slower frames in the animation, and make them gradually get faster. And the way you do that is by, well, adding space, or making the stick figure grow exponentially bigger than before and make it cover more distance to the side or whatever direction you're throwing it in. And me, I like using this angle because it's the one I'm most practiced with, I guess. It's the one that I practice with the most. Excuse me, sorry. But yeah, and then that's all the middle frames. For the middle frames, you want to make it basically get cover more distance and gradually get bigger. Now for the very end, the very very end, you apply the same concept, but you just make it completely disappear after a while. It literally gets so fast that it goes away. Boom, it's gone. You know, it's gone. That's it. So if I was to make it simple, you start slow, or you start at stale framing. You make it slowly get bigger and travel in any direction. And when I mean any direction, you make it travel in any direction. But if it's an object being thrown, like let's say it's straight, like let's say it's an object floating towards you in a very straight line, which is unrealistic because an object would never be that straight ever when being thrown or floating towards you, then you want it to consistently stay on the path that it's on while getting bigger, which is why I use the blue rectangle again. It consistently stays in the rectangle. Why? Because this rectangle is its desired path of where it's going to go. All right. So start with stale framing, which is the slower frames. You start with stale framing, and as it gets bigger, you gradually make it cover more space. Even with this flying disc right here, I made it start at the top because it's gonna like swoop down in a curve. It swoops down, and then it starts turning. The reason I made it like this shape is because it actually turns in the animation. It turns like an actual disc, but it doesn't turn in a normal sense. It kind of floats, not like a ninja star, but it literally just floats, and then it disappears along with the circle. So I'm gonna play it one more time, and then I'm gonna delete all of the blue squares. I mean, all of the blue rectangles, and then I'm gonna play it like that. Now this is the part that gets annoying. The repetition of deleting blue squares. Oh yes. Believe it or not, this is what I have to do every time I do a 3D portion to any animation. Even when I made a part of something in the hallway, I had to also do this. See? That's how you want to do it. So, to break it down again, you want to give it a path with, I suggest using any direction, and I also suggest using a form of object. For instance, it can literally just be another square. I'm just going to use another square. But instead of it being the same shape, we're going to make it like this. That's it. Believe it or not, this is also a legit strat for making something bounce. Like let's say if you were to throw a ball at a roof, this is what you would do. You would make this square right here, the tiny one, come from the background. Let me make it a different color so people could actually see it. I'm gonna make this a different color as well so you can actually see it. You basically want to make it come from the background and get gradually bigger and then go into the foreground. All right. Now I would add an effect, but at the same time, I'm not going to do that for this. All right. So, but you get the point. At least I hope you guys do. Start slow, and as it goes on the track that you set, because you have to set a track, or you will have a harder time. You don't have to. It'll just be very, very hard, in my opinion, because this is how I do it. You guys want to set a track, and then you want to make it gradually get bigger while traveling on that track. And the reason you want to do this is to simulate it coming towards the person. Now, we could go to a very old example of a 3D background, and it's in one of the parts of something. So I'm going to go to the YouTube right quick and go to my own video.